Hey guys, welcome back to another video. Well, another week, another market update, but unfortunately it seems like I'm going to have to disappoint some of you with the data that just came out. So let's talk about volumes, rejections, diesel prices, capacity in the general market, and then we will focus on the spot market specifics for flatbeds, reefers, and dry vans. And as always, at the end of this video, I'm going to compare the data to the actual experience of working in the trucking industry this week. Ready? Let's go! So first, let's start with the net changes in carrier population. How many MCs net were added or left the industry? This week, as of Friday, we saw an increase by 38 new carriers. Now, in terms of the spot versus contract rates, how much more do those contract carriers earn than those spot carriers? Week over week, we see that contract carriers are earning about 49 cents per mile more than those spot carriers, and the margin has grown between what the spot market pays and what the contract market pays. All right, now on to general freight volumes for all equipment types, not just for the spot market, just the general market. You can see the blue line, that's us in 2025. We are trending below 2024 levels, which is in green. And again, we're seeing a U-turn to the wrong direction. The volumes are going down. What about rejections? Because so far, even though the volume has been trending below 2024 levels, rejections have been kind of I guess saving the situation a little bit because they were higher than 2024 levels. Well, rejections are still higher than 2024 levels, but as you can see, they're on their way down, and it's pretty steep, the turnaround. Currently, rejections are on average at 6.32%. All right, now our favorite diesel prices, which unfortunately in the beginning of the year started climbing up. Yes, they're still below 2024 levels, but as you can see, they were climbing up. And right now, if you pay attention, it's going up again. Currently, diesel prices, according to truck stops across the US, are $3.68 per gallon. Now let's talk about the spot market, and we're going to start with dry vans, and this is data that I get from FTR Intel. So on the spot market, dry vans, this is comparing the week ending on January 24th to the week ending on January 31st. On the spot market, dry vans saw a 9-cent per mile decrease on average. And again, the RPM, the rate per mile this week on average on the spot market, is below that $2 per mile mark. Year over year, rates for dry vans are about 5% lower. Now, volumes week over week on the spot market actually increased by 0.6%. But if we're comparing now to this time last year, they are down 21%. Now, as always, in order to figure out the better places to be if you have a dry van or a reefer, I use sonar charts. And basically, I look at the volumes versus rejections to figure out which areas get more loads to the spot market from the contract market. So the top 5 areas for dry vans where more contract freight ends up on the spot market are Green Bay, Wisconsin, Columbus, Ohio, Kansas City, Missouri, Dallas, Texas, and Cincinnati, Ohio. But if you look at the next column, you see everything is decreasing. These are outbound spot rates. How much do loads pay from these areas? And all of them are seeing a decrease. Now, the final column will show you truck availability, and you can see that Dallas, for example, has excess truck capacity. Columbus, Ohio has moderate, and the other 3 have limited capacity. But yeah, the most important thing to see here is that, the outbound spot rates are decreasing from the top 5 market areas. Now, if you're curious as to which areas for dry vans are actually seeing an increase, I'm going to read them off. Ontario, California, Los Angeles, California, Tucson, Arizona, Grand Junction, Colorado, San Antonio, Texas, Laredo, Texas, and Jacksonville, Florida. those areas are seeing increasing outbound spot rates for dry vans. All right, next we have reefers and the spot market. And unfortunately, reefers also saw a pretty significant decrease in the average rate per mile. The rates decreased by an average of 10 cents per mile. Now, rates year over year are about 4.5% lower for reefers on the spot market. Volumes also dropped from last week by over 10%, and year over year, volumes are down 22% for reefers. So again, looking at the better market areas for reefers using sonar data, the top 5 areas where more loads go from the contract market to the spot market are Joliet, Illinois, Joplin, Missouri, Twin Falls, Idaho, Lakeland, Florida, and Milwaukee, Wisconsin. But again, all of those places are seeing decreasing outbound spot rates. In terms of truck availability, Lakeland obviously has excess capacity. Joliet and Milwaukee have moderate capacity, and then Joplin and Twin Falls have limited capacity. Now, again, if you're interested in what market areas actually have increasing outbound rates on the spot market for reefers, there are only 2 markets. There's Chattanooga, Tennessee, and Raleigh, North Carolina. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. All right, last but not least, we have our flatbeds. Now, in terms of flatbeds this week, it seems like they followed the opposite pattern from what reefers and dry vans are doing. It seems like whenever reefers and dry vans are seeing increases in the spot market, flatbeds see decreases and vice versa. So for flatbeds, week over week, flatbeds actually saw a 4-cent per mile increase on the spot market, but year over year, rates are still 3% lower. Volumes increased by over 10% for flatbeds on the spot market, and year over year, volumes are actually 12% higher. Now, in order to figure out the better areas, again, I use truck stop data and I create these maps. So what we're looking at right now is the load map. Which places have more volume on the spot market? The darker an area is, the more loads come out of that area. I'm not going to comment too much on this because nothing really changes week after week. Yeah, the amount of loads changes, but it's always the South, Midwest, and the eastern portion of the United States that has more volume for flatbeds. Now, in terms of capacity, for the most part, flatbeds follow the load volumes, right? You're going to see darker areas in places where there are more loads. So what we're trying to figure out now is the load to truck ratio. Where is the negotiating power? Anything burgundy red, like New Mexico, for example, or Kansas, this is severe overcapacity. There is less than half a load per truck. Anything red is still overcapacity. There's still less than a load per truck in those areas, but something I have noticed is that Texas went from severe overcapacity to just overcapacity. Now, anything orange, and there are a lot of places, Nevada, Idaho, Illinois, Ohio, these are places where there's pretty much equilibrium. There are the same amount of loads as there are trucks. Yellow, like Michigan, Connecticut, or Rhode Island, this is slight undercapacity. There's between 1.5 to 2 loads per truck. Green is 2 to 3 loads per truck, and those places are Washington, Oregon, Massachusetts, Arkansas, and Louisiana. And finally, moderate undercapacity, 3 to 10 loads per truck, Mississippi, Alabama, and Maine. Now, data versus experience. And I'm going to tell you that this past week has been absolute nonsense for us as a flatbed carrier. Now, there might be a couple of reasons for this. Number one, I strongly believe that the results that we saw in January had more to do with the temporary exit in capacity due to weather than an actual significant change in the market. Number two, for us personally, we ended up in a bog called the West Coast this week. Really, that's the perfect word for it because it's extremely easy to get to the West Coast with a flatbed at least, but it's near impossible to get out. So the result is that we have wasted a week trying to get the out of the West Coast. My advice for you, if you're a flatbed carrier, especially with this kind of weather, do not come to the West Coast, despite the fact that Washington and Oregon seem to have undercapacity, right? There are more loads than trucks. Oregon keeps shutting down roads, especially on the border of Oregon and California. The road from California California to Reno, Nevada, Truckee, for example, everyone loves Truckee. That place has some insane chain order where the officers really don't know their ass from the ground and don't know the law. And the freight? Well, freight here is scarce at best unless you're willing to go from West Coast to West Coast and continue being stuck in this bog where diesel prices are pretty much the highest in the country, with the exception perhaps of the Northeast. Yeah, this week has been a really big pain in the butt. I can't wait to put it behind me, but most of it had to do with location. I'm hoping that next week I'll have a better idea of what's happening in the rest of the country once I manage to get my trucks out of this hellhole. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for joining and watching today. I hope you have a fantastic rest of your week and weekend. Stay safe, stay healthy, and keep learning. See you in the next video.